Her boss sent roses that said, "Last night was magic." She displayed them proudly on our table. Can you imagine that? A vase of red roses, the petals just beginning to open, the stems trimmed perfectly, sitting right in the center of the table. We ate dinner at every night, and there it was, the little card tucked neatly into the arrangement, the words staring back at me like they were engraved into my chest. She didn't even try to hide it. That was the part that killed me. You want to know what went through my head when I saw them? First, confusion. I thought maybe it was some work thing. A thanking from a client, some promotion she hadn't told me about yet. She'd gotten flowers before for professional milestones. But when I picked up that card and read the words, I felt something shift inside me. Not break. Not explode. Shift, like suddenly I was standing on ground that wasn't stable anymore. She walked in just then, humming to herself, keys dangling in her hand, as casual as if the world hadn't just tilted sideways. I held up the card. "What's this?" I asked, my voice steady even though my heart was thrashing like a trapped animal. "Oh," she said, smiling, tucking her hair behind her ear. "A gift. Sweet, isn't it?" I stared at her. "Sweet." "Yeah," she said, walking over, adjusting the vase like it mattered. He has a sense of humor. Don't overthink it. But that wasn't humor. Humor is a joke scribbled on a post-it, not "last night was magic" in neat cursive. That's not something you laugh off. That's a confession disguised as a compliment. I wanted to push her right there, demand answers, rip the truth out of her. But I didn't. I just nodded, set the card down and said nothing. Because I knew. And once you know, you can't unknow. The rest of the night felt like I was watching a movie of my own life from outside my body. She cooked dinner, hummed that same tune, set plates on the table beside those roses, like nothing was wrong. I chewed the food she made, swallowed it like gravel, stared at her hands as they moved gracefully across the fork and knife, and thought, those are the same hands that answered his roses. That touched him last night. That night, while she slept beside me, I lay awake. My mind kept replaying the scene of her arranging those roses, the proud way she scented them, as if she wanted them to be the first thing I saw. Was it arrogance? Was it a test? Did she think I was too blind to connect the dots? Or had she just stopped caring whether I noticed? I didn't confront her in the morning either. Instead, I kissed her on the cheek, told her to have a good day at work, and watched her leave. Then I sat at that table, staring at those roses, until the sun rose higher and higher, until the petals began to look less like flowers and more like proof. Proof of betrayal, proof of everything she wasn't saying. You know what betrayal really is. It's not just the act itself. It's the audacity, the way someone can smile in your face while holding a knife behind their back, the way they can leave evidence in plain sight, and still pretend nothing's wrong. I didn't throw the roses away. I didn't tear up the card. I left them, because every time I walked past them, every time the scent drifted through the room, I reminded myself, patience. I started digging. Quietly, carefully. At first it was little things. Late nights at the office. New dresses she bought but never wore around me. That glow on her face when she texted someone, her lips curling into a smile she tried to hide. I started paying attention to the details she assumed I wouldn't notice. The way she said, "We had a late meeting," but never could quite explain what it was about. The way she suddenly guarded her phone like it held nuclear codes. I checked her laptop one evening while she was in the shower. She always left it on the couch, half open. I pretended to be scrolling the news, but I dug deeper. Emails. Nothing explicit. She wasn't that careless, but enough. Late-night messages from him. Phrases that read like more than business. Still thinking about last night. Can't wait for tomorrow. She had archived some, deleted others. But she missed a few, and those few were enough to tell me everything. I didn't print them. Not yet. I screenshotted them on my phone, saved them to a hidden folder. Step one of my growing arsenal. The second piece came from her bank statements. A charge at a luxury hotel in the city. Not the kind of place you meet a client. The kind of place you go when you want to disappear into crisp sheets and forget the rest of the world. The third piece was almost handed to me. Her boss called one evening, while she was in the shower. His name lit up her phone, and instinct took over. I answered. Silence on the other end for a moment, then a low chuckle. "Hey," he said, his voice soft. "Did you get home safe?" I froze. He thought I was her, My chest tightened, but I forced my voice to stay calm. "Yeah," I muttered, then hung up. My hands shook as I placed the phone back on the counter. That was all the confirmation I needed. But I didn't rage. I didn't throw accusations. I let her come out of the shower, towel in her hair, humming again, smiling at me like she hadn't just been planning nights with another man, and I smiled back. Because now I wasn't blind. I was watching. The roses wilted over the next week. Their petals drooped, their scent faded, and finally, she tossed them in the trash. But I didn't forget. The flowers were gone, but the cards stayed with me, tucked into a drawer in my desk. A reminder, a piece of evidence, a seed of patience, because I knew one thing. If she thought she could play me like this, she had no idea what I was capable of when I stopped playing nice. And so I waited. I watched. I gathered every lie she told, every excuse she gave, every laugh she shared with him when she thought I wasn't looking. I stored it. I built a case. Not just in files and folders, but in my mind, a case so strong that when the time came, she wouldn't be able to breathe under the weight of it. She thought roses were romantic, but all they really did was mark the beginning of her undoing. And the best part, she had no idea it had already started. I left the card in the drawer, and for weeks, it sat there like a loaded gun. Every time I opened that drawer, I felt its weight, not in grams or ounces, but in meaning. The roses had wilted, dried, crumbled to dust in the trash. But the words on that card stayed sharp. Last night was magic. Sometimes I'd pull it out just to read it again. Not to torture myself, but to remind myself what I was dealing with. Betrayal in her own house. Betrayal dressed up in ribbon and petals. Betrayal she displayed proudly on the table like it was a trophy. I didn't confront her right away. People always think revenge is about explosions, shouting, fists pounding tables. But that's not revenge. That's theater. Real revenge is quiet. It's patience. It's the slow tightening of a noose while they keep laughing. Oblivious. She thought life was back to normal. She hummed when she cooked. She laughed when I cracked a joke. She kissed me goodnight, but I saw through it now. Every hum, every laugh, every kiss tasted false. I could see the other life she was leading flickering beneath the surface, like a reflection in broken glass. She thought she could balance both. She thought she could keep her boss's roses and buy loyalty. But balance always tips. The first time I followed her, it was almost too easy. She told me she was working late. Something about a presentation. I kissed her goodbye, told her not to stay out too long, then waited 15 minutes before I left. Her office was downtown, but her car didn't head that way. I tailed her from 2 cars back, hands tight on the wheel, heart thumping with a rhythm of rage and clarity. She didn't drive to the office. She drove to a hotel, the same one I'd seen her bank statement. I sat in the parking lot, engine idling, watching her step out of the car in a dress she hadn't worn for me in years. Minutes later, he arrived. He didn't even look around, just parked and walked straight to her, like this was routine. My stomach churned, but my face stayed calm. I didn't storm out. I didn't bang on the door. I just wrote down the details. Time, place, date, evidence. Another piece in the file I was building. That became my new routine. She thought she was careful, but she wasn't. Cheaters never are. They think they're clever, but their arrogance leaves trails everywhere. Receipts, emails, late-night text, disguised under fake names. I collected it all. Screenshots, photographs, call logs. My phone became an evidence vault, and the more I gathered, the calmer I became. I realized something. When you have the truth on your side, you don't need to rush. The truth doesn't expire. It just waits for the right time to surface. That right time came faster than I expected. Her birthday. She wanted a dinner. Family, friends, colleagues. She wanted him there too, of course. She made a show of casually suggesting we invite him, calling it just professional courtesy. I agreed instantly, hiding the smile tugging at my lips, because what better stage could I ask for? A room full of people who loved her, respected her, admired her, a perfect audience for the truth. The night of the dinner, everything sparkled. The restaurant buzzed with laughter. Glasses clinked, candles flickered. She sat beside me, radiant, glowing, leaning close and whispering, Thank you for making this so special." Across the table he smiled politely, lifting his glass in my direction. To anyone else, it looked normal, but I could see it. The stolen glances, the way her hand brushed her necklace when she looked at him, the way he shifted uncomfortably when our eyes met. Halfway through dinner, I stood. I tapped my glass with my fork. The room quieted, everyone turning toward me, expecting the usual speech. A toast to her, a story, something sentimental. She smiled at me, eyes shining, completely unaware. "I just want to say a few words," I began, my voice steady, calm. "Tonight is about celebrating her, about celebrating love, loyalty, and the bond we all share." She tilted her head, smiling sweetly. He shifted in his chair, and in the spirit of honesty, I continued, pulling an envelope from my jacket pocket, thick and heavy with printed pages. "I think it's important we share everything. No more secrets." I set the envelope in front of her. She frowned, confused, but opened it. Pages spilled out across the table. Emails, receipts, photographs, screenshots. The card from the roses, the words "last night was magic" circled in red. Gasps rippled through the room. Her hands trembled as she tried to gather the papers, but there were too many, too damning. "What is this?" her sister whispered. "This," I said, my voice cutting through the silence, "is the truth about where those roses came from, the truth about the nights she wasn't at work, the truth about the man she claimed was just her boss." I pointed across the table, at him. The room erupted. Her mother covered her mouth, eyes wide. Her father cursed under his breath. Friends shifted uncomfortably, whispering to one another. His wife, yes, his wife stood abruptly, her chair scraping back, tears streaming down her face, as she threw her napkin at him. "You bastard," she shouted, before storming out. She tried to speak, stammering, it's not what it looks like," but I cut her off, my voice cold, final. "It's exactly what it looks like. You put those roses on our table. You wanted me to see them. Now everyone sees you for who you really are." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. She collapsed into her chair, face buried in her hands. He sat frozen, pale, humiliated, unable to lift his head. I didn't stay. I didn't need to. I walked out into the night, the cool air hitting my face like freedom. Behind me, I heard the chaos, the whispers, the arguments, the tears, but I didn't look back. That night, I slept for the first time in months. Really. Not the restless half-sleep of a man doubting, questioning, suffocating, under suspicion. No, I slept like a man who had finally let the truth speak louder than the lies. The aftermath was long and messy. Divorce papers, lawyer meeting, late-night calls from her begging to talk, to explain, to salvage something from the wreckage. I never answered. He tried to, but his career couldn't survive the scandal. The whispers spread fast, colleagues distancing themselves, his wife filing for divorce. The empire they thought they were building on roses and secrets crumbled overnight. And me? I rebuilt. Slowly, yes. Painfully, yes. But stronger. Because here's the thing about betrayal. When it happens, it feels like the end of your story. But it isn't. It's just the end of theirs in your life. She thought roses were romantic. She thought a card with 7 careless words could stay hidden in plain sight. She thought she could balance 2 lives without consequence. But in the end, those roses became her undoing. And I never let her forget.